Explaining the curse technique of Uiui, aka the child prodigy, the phenom, the groomed one, the MVP of Shinjuku. But manga spoilers beware. So the young lad's curse technique is teleportation, something that was first alluded to back during the Shibuya incident when he teleported himself and his sister to Malaysia in order to escape from Kinjaku. And then more recently in the manga, we have seen him teleporting wounded heroes out of the battlefield. But most recently, it was just revealed that he can use this teleportation to also swap souls between people. The way the man himself describes it is this: my technique is the teleportation of targets. If I'm with you, I'm able to transport you to a place or a person that I've previously marked. Okay, but how does this teleportation technique translate into a soul swap ability? Well, this is how they break it down. And the first thing you need to remember is that the body and the soul are two distinct entities in the world of JJK. So, Wee is able to mark just the soul and swap that as the target of his teleportation while leaving the original body behind. So in that way, we can mark two individual souls and teleport them in order to swap them. However, there still is a lot of nuance in how this works. The first bit of nuance here is consent. Picture unrelated. We must get the person's permission before he can swap their soul. Next thing we need to talk about is the mechanism of how this swap will work, because Yuji brings up a very valid point. He's worried that by swapping souls with each other, their bodies will start to transform. And he believes this because of his experience with Mahito, who, if you'll recall, his curse technique, Idol Transfiguration, literally shaped people's souls, which then in turn transformed their bodies, right? So Yuji's worried that if he swaps with Kusakabe, then Kusakabe's body will start to shift because Yuji's soul is inside it, and vice versa, right? But Wee explains that it won't work that way. So here's a simplified analogy of how it works. Remember again that the body and the soul are two distinct things. The silhouettes here are the bodies, the gifts are the soul, right? So Wee is able to swap the contents of the gift boxes without actually swapping the gift boxes themselves. So as far as the body is concerned, it still has the soul of its original owner, but really the contents of that soul are somebody else. A quick example, let's say we've got Yuji on the left and Kusakabe on the right. Yuji's soul is the green gift box and Kusakabe's is the blue. Wee comes in and uses his technique. And now the contents of the boxes have been swapped without actually swapping the boxes. Final thing we need to talk about with this technique is how often it can be used. And he tells us that there is a limit of twice per person per month. Now, there was a lot of ambiguity about this when the translations first came out, and so now this makes way more sense. The limit is not on Wee himself. He can theoretically do the soul swap as many times as he wants in a month. It's just there's a limit on the target of the technique. So he can only swap Yuji twice in a month, Kusakabe twice in a month, so on and so forth. Now, this 2 swaps per person does beg a question of what exactly counts as a swap. In the Yuji Kusakabe example, they swap with each other, right? Is that 1 and then swapping back is 2? Or is the swap and swap back just considered 1? And in my opinion, I think it's just considered 1 due to how Kusakabe talks here. He says, Yuji, you'll swap with me first. And really, there's no reason for him to say first, implying there's going to be a second if all that means is they have to swap back into their original bodies. So for my money, it means you can do 2 distinct swaps with 2 different people per month. However, just to play devil's advocate here, it is at least possible that swapping and swapping back does count as 2, but the group had 2 months worth of swaps to play with, meaning they would have had 4 total. And that really just depends on how this cooldown works and how much time they had exactly before the Sukuna fight. We know that there was a 1-month time skip, but it may not have been literally 30 days, right? So depending on the exact nuance of how the technique works and how much time there was, it's possible they had 2 months worth of swaps to play with, which in that case would still explain why Kusakabe said, I would be first. But regardless of which scenario it is, I think it's safe to say that Yuji swapped with 2 different people. We know one to be Kusakabe, and that's how he learned Simple Domain. And the other would have been somebody that can perform RCT. So who do you guys think it was? Presumably it would have had to have been one of these 4. So let me know in the comments who you think it was, and also let me know who you think swapped with each other outside of Yuji. You know, were Akotsu and Gojo swapping? Were Hikari and Ino swapping? Let me know your theories. And finally, y'all, I had a couple of questions related to this that I wanted to tackle here at the end. And the first one is from Isaiah, who wanted to know if the soul swap could be the technique reversal of teleportation. And I don't believe so after, what I've just explained in this video, that it's just a facet of the teleportation. But it does beg a really interesting question. What would the reversal of this teleportation be? For my guess, we probably won't see it since we see so few of them, but it's cool to speculate about. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any ideas. Then for the second question from Bjarn here, y'all feel free to pause, read the whole thing if you'd like, but he's essentially asking if I think the soul swap would work with inanimate objects like Panda. And personally, I don't see why it wouldn't, because Panda has a soul, right? I don't know if it's appropriate to call Panda an inanimate object, but I think that would work. But for example, and I know you weren't saying this, I don't think you could swap Yuji's soul with like a power drill. You know what I mean? But in Panda's case, it seems like it would check out because they both have souls. Now, as far as the nuance on could you swap Yuji's soul with just one of the souls in a cursed corpse, or would you have to do like a full swap, meaning, three souls would now be inside Yuji's body and just Yuji would be inside Panda? I'm not sure, but you do bring up some interesting points on how like these things could all interplay with each other, like a mixture of Wee Wee's curse technique with the knowledge of how to create a cursed corpse now. Something crazy could happen with that. Me personally, I don't know if I see anything like that extreme happening at this point in the series, at least not as like an ass pull to be like, oh, we brought Gojo, Akotsu, and Nobara, and they're all in a new cursed corpse together or something. So I don't really see anything like that happening, but it is certainly interesting to think about what could happen. Then real quick, I got a donation that just says Megami's dad question, but I have not been able to find this question in reference, and I have looked everywhere. So if this is you, please shoot me a DM on either Instagram or TikTok and let me know what your username is here so that I know it's you. And then let me know your question because I want to get this worked out for you. And just a little PSA for anybody that shoots questions like this and they don't have enough information to like type out their full question, just be sure to tell me like, hey, this is my username on Instagram. I'm going to DM you so I can get you my full question. That's the best way to do it. Because, I have not been able to find this. So please reach out to me. Finally, today we got this question from Turbo. What's up, manga? What's up, Turbo? Absurdly important question. Is William, the mod in the Discord, actually an ancient eldritch being? If so, how old is he? Why is he so powerful? And why is he from Europe? Turbo? Please tell me that you did not tell him that I knew.